It is the Week 14 edition of the HBCU NFL Report on HBCU Game Day, where we keep you guys updated on some of your favorite Black college football stars in the pros. I am Symone Stanley, as always joined by Lute. And Lute, we got a lot to get into this week. We have the Celebration Bowl on Saturday, and two guys are being inducted into the first ever Celebration Bowl Hall of Fame. Tarik Cohen, former anti-Aggie 336 boy turned Chicago Bear, and our guy, Buddy, NFL Pipeline Pough.
Yeah, most deserving because Tarik Cohen kicked off the Celebration Bowl with a bang. In the first Celebration Bowl, he ran for 295 yards. He had 3 touchdowns of over 70 yards. He was a blur. Alcorn State is still trying to catch him. And Tarik certainly is most deserving to be the first guy in because he really put the Celebration Bowl on the map with that performance, as well as opening the eyes of the NFL scouts who saw him on ABC back in, I think it was 2015, I think. And at the first Celebration Bowl, he was dynamic. And all of us, I live in Greensboro where he played. We watched him for 4 years, run for 1,000 yards every year, including his rookie year where he hardly played for the first 4 games. But he was a star. He was the biggest star in the HBCU stage. Drafted in the 4th round by the Chicago Bears. Did his thing for a couple of years. All-pro as a rookie, as a kick returner. And then 2 years ago, had a very devastating knee injury that he is still trying to recover from. He knocked out both his MCL and ACL, as well as had a break of a bone in his leg. And during his comeback, trying to get back on the field, he injured his Achilles. So I saw him at A&T's homecoming this year. He said he's not even able to work out yet, but he's targeting next year as a time to get back into the NFL ledger and get back on somebody's roster as he's been released by the Chicago Bears.
All pro as a rookie, that's a tall task, and it's just so good to see somebody, like you said, Tarik Cohen, who had such a phenomenal college career. It translates instantly and so easily to the pros, and you can't do anything about injuries, as we know, so all we can do is just hope and pray for the best for him. Do you know how old he is? I hate to put a date on people.
Well, and the good thing about it is he signed a guaranteed contract the week before he got injured. So he is well off in terms of that. But Tarik is a fierce competitor. You know, many thought and were worried about the fact that even though he broke the MEAC rushing record, he became the leading rusher in the history of the MEAC with over 5,000 yards. Everybody was worried about his size, but Tarik's heart is huge. His competitiveness is huge. And, he vowed to me when I saw him at A&T's homecoming this year, he said, I'll be back. And this is, what they say, his biggest asset was his speed. He's only 5'7", 180 yards soaking wet. And the biggest thing they say from an MCL, ACL injury, you only get back about 80%. But if there's anybody who can get back, it is going to be Tarik Cohen. The brother has overcome quite a bit, not even hardly recruited out of high school, made a name for himself at A&T as well as in the NFL. So I think Tarik is 25 years old, maybe, somewhere in that range, 25, 26 years old.
25 to 27, somewhere in there.
And if there's anybody that can come back from all the adversity, in fact, if you get a chance, go to the Players Tribune. He wrote a story about his life, how he grew up, all the things he's had to overcome. He even lost a twin brother since he's been in the NFL. He had a twin brother who was killed. And he talks about all of those things in the Players Tribune. If you get a chance, check it out. It's Tarik Cohen, his life. And then you mentioned Buddy Pough. He's the dean of HBCU coaches now. I think in his 20 or 21st year at South Carolina State. He took over from a legend, following in the footsteps of Willie Jeffries, a legend of South Carolina State. And he's more than lived up to it with, I think, now 5 MEAC championships. And he'll tell you the biggest win he had of his career that did more for South Carolina State. He said more people called him, more people texted him, emailed, was when they knocked off Jackson State and Coach Prime Sanders last year in the Celebration Bowl. And this is a year ago come this weekend in Atlanta, where North Carolina Central will get its shot at Jackson State as Deion Sanders heads out the door to Colorado.
Yeah, I was laughing because you said Tarik Cohen was 180 pounds soaking wet. Last week, we talked about Shaq Davis from South Carolina State University, and he wanted it to be known that he is not 180 pounds. So if you watched the show last week, Luke said he was 180 pounds. Shaq said, I'm not 180 pounds. So I don't know how much we should believe that Tarik Cohen is 180 pounds. It sounds like you got that number just stuck in your head, Luke.
What did he say how much he weighed?
He didn't say how much he weighed, but he said, I'm not 180.
I'm going by the South Carolina State roster. They had him listed as 180, and at 6'5", that's very slim. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to put some meat on him to play on the next level, not to lose any of his speed, but to put a little more meat on those bones. So he's a real talent. He's probably the most talented wide receiver. And when you combine size with a skill, he's probably the most talented HBCU receiver coming out this year by far. So we'll see how far he goes and where he gets picked in the NFL draft.
Yeah, you talking about Buddy Pough being inducted as well. Last season was a thriller, a huge upset last year in the Celebration Bowl. And then not only what he's done in the Celebration Bowl, but you would think maybe he's also getting inducted too just because of what he's done in the MEAC overall, because the Celebration Bowl is a one-day bowl game, but it is to celebrate the season that the team had in the MEAC and that the team had in the SWAC. And we know on here, and I know how much Buddy Pough has done as a coach, especially development-wise, and getting guys into the pros. And not only in the pros, but doing well in the pros.
Yeah, Javon Hargrave, Shaquille Leonard, you go down the list, Antonio Hamilton, and you go down the list in terms of guys that have been there for many years. Both Willie Jeffries did that, and Buddy Pough has certainly continued it. And primarily defensive players. They've had some offensive players, like the wide receiver for the Washington, what then were the Redskins quite some time ago, one of the Smurfs on that team. But they've constantly and continuously put out NFL players. So no, Buddy Pough's only been to the Celebration Bowl once. That's why I was saying Rod Broadway won back-to-back Celebration Bowls. Sam Washington has won back-to-back Celebration Bowls. Both of those coaches at A&T. But as you said, for longevity, in terms of what he's done on the HBCU level, on the MEAC level, on the national level even, Buddy Pough is well-deserved.
Yes, and we'll see, Luke. Just because they're not the first Celebration Hall of Fame inductees, they're gonna get in, Luke. Don't worry.
They should be. You're right. The Celebration Bowl is young and early, and it's been great through 6 editions. It's been very great. MEAC leading 5-1, which is a shock to many people who thought that the SWAC was the stronger conference. We'll have to see this week when we see Jackson State going up against North Carolina Central.
So let's talk about a former HBCU coach, Steve Wilks. Steve Wilks took over the Carolina Panthers mid-season, facing so many adversities. Not only are you coming in mid-season, but the team had a lot of turnover. Their season looked done. But Steve Wilks, the Panthers just took down the Seattle Seahawks and are now in a position to win the NFC South. They're still in a position to win the NFC South. I'm not saying they're going to win the NFC South, but they're still in position to, and they're in position to make the playoffs. Like, that is just a huge testament to Steve Wilks. And he was a former SIAC coach. Now in the NFL, there's a couple of SIAC head coaching openings right now, and that just goes to show that you can go from that level to the NFL and thrive like Steve Wilks has done.
Yeah, and he coached at the SIAC and the CIAA. He coached at Johnson C. Smith as well as Savannah State. And yeah, he's doing this without Baker Mayfield, who they picked up early in the season, without Christian McCaffrey, who was their bellwether running back, without Robbie Anderson, the wide receiver that was a key element. You would have thought this was a trap situation. Oh, we're going to hire the black coach.
Right.
He's going to come in, finish out the season 3-13 or something like that. But instead, he's come in and has got the Panthers playing well, challenging the Tampa Bay Bucks for the NFC South in a position to do it if they continue playing the way that they are playing. And kudos to Steve Wilks. He's done a great job. And bottom line, he's deserving of this job on a permanent basis.
Right.
You know, this is his second head coaching job. He only had 1 year in Arizona, which was a travesty for him to get rid of him, give him so-called an opportunity, only be there for 1 year. So he's showing that he is NFL worthy in terms of the job he's doing with the Panthers after taking over this season.
Yeah, Steve Wilks has to be named the head coach. Like, because right now he has the interim stamp. But if he's not named the head coach, Lou,
something's wrong.
Something's wrong. very wrong. He can
add his name, and I think he had already added his name to the whole Brian Flores situation coming out of Florida in terms of not giving African-American coaches a true shot. And in fact, there was some story this week about somebody else talking about tanking, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been the Houston Texans coach talking about that he wasn't going to tank. He almost beat Dallas this week. So we'll get into that when we talk about our players of the week.
Well, now that you mention it, it's time to get into the players of the week for week 14. Starting with the defensive player of the week. This guy, 3 games in a row, a force. You wonder where the Lions would be if he's been playing all season, you know what I mean?
Well, you know, the initial reports say that he had just been on the practice squad for 11 weeks before he got into a game. One story I read this week says that he actually was nursing an injury, and that's the reason they kept him on the practice squad. Now, I'm not sure if that's some revisionist history, so it doesn't look like
right.
That you
was he really nursing the injury,
exactly.
Luke? Really?
Right. But when you had this guy on the bench for 11 weeks and then he comes out in the first 3 weeks and he gets 4 sacks. And if you watch this film, if you watch the video of his playing, what he's doing, he's using his speed to run around these offensive linemen, giving them a fake. The sack he had this week, he kind of hesitates and then explodes and sacks Kirk Cousins on a shoestring sack. They actually, in the broadcast, gave the sack to Aiden Hutchinson, but when they looked at the replay, they saw that it was James Houston that got it.
Now, so, how they mixed them two up?
Well, they got to the quarterback at the same time. Hutchinson went high, and Houston went low, and Houston swiped at his ankles and really brought him down. So it was not a half sack. It was a full sack that they gave to James Houston. So he went from 5 plays the first week. He had 2 sacks. Last week, he had 12 plays and he got another sack. This week, they've increased him to 21 plays to get he got the last sack. He got the sack on the last play of the first half. So that was actually his only tackle of the game. But when you're a sack specialist, that's what they put you in to do, and that's what he's doing. And that's certainly what he did for Jackson State last year. He was only second to Isaiah Land in all of FCS football with 16 and a half sacks. And look, Deion told folks he was a beast. He's a player. You know, he talked about how amazing it was to be at an HBCU and see 53,000 African-American folks in the stands. So we're all cheering for James Houston. He made a great decision to go to Jackson State after his early career at Florida, and it's paying off for him now. He's getting nothing but light in the NFL.
I needed the Vikings. I picked the Vikings in my weekly picks to win that game. But it is better for me that the Lions won because now, you know, my team, the Eagles, we got more separation from the Vikings. I should have put more faith in the Lions. That's on me. That's on me. I can only be mad at myself.
Yeah, the Lions are on a roll. Nobody expected them to be where they are. I think they've won 5 of 6 games. Jared Goff is playing very well. The defense is playing well. And James Houston has given them an added spark in these last 3 games. So keep your eye on the Lions as they are a team to watch as we go down the stretch of the NFL season.
So our offensive player of the week was in a super close game. So close. So close. Played with my heart, Luke. They played with my heart.
They were.
The Texans. They had one job, Luke. Beat the freaking Cowboys.
Yeah. The Battle of Texas. And the interesting thing is that Titus Howard is our offensive player of the week. He's a right tackle for the Houston Texans out of Alabama State, former first-round pick out of Alabama State. This is the kid that played quarterback in high school and ended up playing offensive line at Alabama State. And that's that quickness from playing quarterback, of having quick feet to be able to move and having mobility that's made him a great offensive lineman. He played all 66 snaps, I believe it was, and for the Texans. And you said they went into the fourth quarter with a lead over Dallas before Dallas and scored.
I don't need a replay. I don't need a replay.
To pull out a 27-23 win, but he's our offensive player of the week. And this is a second week in a row we've had an offensive lineman who actually was lost the game, but he played the entire game and did a good job. They had no sacks. They kept Michael Parsons away from their quarterback. And they did do a great effort. You know, they have the worst record in the league right now.
Yeah.
And for them to battle the Cowboys the way they did, certainly Titus Howard was a big part of that.
So Tolly says Titus's nickname is Weenie.
Yeah. From his high school days, that's right. He called him Weenie. That's right. But, you know, amazingly, he was a high school quarterback who ends up being almost 300 pounds and playing on the offensive line. And this is actually what the NFL looks for. They look for big guys who have mobility and have agility, that can move well, to have quick feet. Titus Howard is a first class, and that's why they picked him in the first round. He's the last HBCU player to go in the first round over the last decade. So he's living up to his billing.
Okay. We'll have to do some further investigation on how you go from Weenie to a 300-pound lineman.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of questions there, Luke.
Eat well, and grow into your body. He just matured, and they figured that as big as he got, it was an asset for him. That's what got him as drafted in the first round.
Okay, so Luke, been smiling, waiting on this one. Your special teams player of the week. He finally played my team. I don't know how he's still on the board after that.
Yeah. Well, that's only because, and you know, I've said this before, in some cases we have very slim pickings. We didn't have anybody with any special team stats this week, so we had to go with Jamie Gillan. I don't want to take anything away from him.
After you just take everything away from him.
No, he's holding his own. He's in the top 7 in punting stats in the NFL. He had 6 punts against your Eagles this week. He averaged 40.
A lot of punts, baby. It was a lot of punts. We put Jamie to work.
When you lose 48-22, that's exactly what happens. So he did have to punt a lot. But this is his 5th year in the league out of Arkansas Pine Bluff. And if this is the 14th week of the season, we probably picked him 11 of those seasons. So we're always looking for special teams guys. I think last week we had Grover Stewart out of Indianapolis that blocked a field goal attempt. He earned the special teams player of the week a couple of times when we had, I think early in the season, we had some returners who were doing it. But Jamie Gillan is, you know, a guy, obviously he's the Giants punter, so he's going to have some stats every week. So we've used him many of those weeks, but he's a quality punter for the Giants.
We play the Giants one more time, week 18. Sure will be a lot of action from Jamie in that one too, Luke.
and we talked about your Eagles and Hargrave, and I guess when you're winning 48-22, you don't have to employ Hargrave as much. He only played 31.
Don't come for Javon, Luke. Don't do it.
He had no tackles. I think that's the first time this season for sure he had no tackles. One hit on the quarterback, but big win for your Eagles, 48-22.
Was that necessary? Wasn't necessary. No. Like I said, the game was a blowout. We was resting guys. Javon probably didn't even play the whole fourth quarter. Jalen Hurts rested, Miles rested, the offensive line rested, everybody rested. So
Congratulations, 12-1. Congratulations.
Well, Luke, we are headed to week 15. Hopefully my team is 13-1. We got the Chicago Bears. Your Steelers, hopefully they're still in good spirits.
We let one go. I mean, 16-14, we should have beat this team easily. We had a field goal blocked from 30 yards, 3 interceptions in the red zone. We're fine though. We'll be fine. We're building. We'll be okay. Okay,
y'all be okay.
Okay, give me my theme music.
The theme music has been playing, Luke. So your opportunity to do that was at the beginning of the
show. As we say bye bye to Deion Sanders.
Okay, Luke, you're getting too controversial. Time to cut the show. Y'all, this was week 14 of the HBCU NFL Report. Maybe Deion will give us some content to talk about in week 15 of the HBCU NFL Report after the Celebration Bowl. This Saturday, we do have some NFL draft prospects to watch in the bowl as well. Aubrey Miller and Dallas Daniels from Jackson State University. So we'll have a lot to talk about on week 15 of the HBCU NFL Report. But as for week 14, I am Symone Stanley. He is Luke. I got to get him out of here before, he said something to get all of us in trouble. But y'all, this is HBCU Game Day. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Give me my theme music.